It is time. Mel, everybody, I'm Cantonese Cat. Hey, everybody. It is time. Let's talk business here. Let me go to charts. I have deactivated my Twitter handle, Crypto Canton Cat. I have moved to, now I am Evil Canton Cat because apparently I'm evil. If you want to follow me, I got some followers back. I'm going to try and get my account verified again as soon as possible. I could not do that quite just yet because I just kind of changed my name back to Cantonese Cat and also just changed my avatar. So I still need maybe a few days before I can really do like a verification and all that. But this is my account. The Crypto Canton Cat account is no longer there. If you click it, it doesn't exist anymore. And I've directed people to my Evil Canton Cat account. So yeah, it's happening. I got about 2,000 followers back. It feels like a loss, but hey, it is what it is. I'm not going to talk too much about that. I actually have a stock tweet account. I actually have like 6.4 thousand there. So I actually have more people following there. But I'm just going to get right to business because I think I haven't really been able to chart all that much. I do have to say, and there's no guarantee, just looking at Bitcoin, a lot of people are calling for another drop. And there's certainly entirely a possibility for that. And I do want to go to Bitcoin right away because a lot of the stocks I generally talk about are crypto related or Bitcoin related. So I'm just going to go straight to Bitcoin. I think Matt has asked about CleanSpark and also with hymns. Which I'm going to get to. But right off the bat, just going to talk about Bitcoin first in terms of what to expect. The truth is that a lot of people are calling for another potential like lower, or maybe even just hit down at like the 53,000 kind of test somewhere around that area. It's certainly a possibility. There's no reason to think that anything is not possible, especially when the weekly Shimoku cloud is right underneath of that. The other thought is that Bitcoin could certainly just kind of stay boring for longer, for another few weeks, maybe even hit like in the bottom of the cloud over here around 58,000, which is something that Great Matsby has talked about as a possibility. The other way to look at it is, hey, we finally kind of broke about the Subishy cloud on the weekly here, and we're finally getting back to it. And right now we're back testing it. So does it necessarily mean that we have to go down further? Not necessarily, right? And on the 2-week chart here on the Subishy is still kind of stuck in a range between the Tenkan and Kijun. So does it have to go down that much further, especially if you already had like a weekly candle that had already kind of pushed all the way down like that and grabbed a lot of liquidity, with the VIX, being at like 60 and the entire market kind of freaking out with Japan. By the way, I want to show you the monthly candle for Japan. This is the this is the weekly candle for Japan, right? Remember, like just 3 weeks ago, I was freaking out. Next thing you know, if you were sold when things were real bad, you would have been not doing very well. Look at the monthly candle that closed this month. Like, what kind of candle is this? This is like a big giant hammer candle. Like, this is not even a hammer. This is like a dragonfly candle. These things are really super, super bullish and very bottomy. It's insane how that candle looks. And then also, if you're wondering whether or not it was finding support where it needed to on the 2-week Subishy cloud, that they found support exactly where it needed to find support at, right? So to me, I feel that maybe there might, and that was what was required for Bitcoin to hit like 48,000. And that happened really on Sunday night in the US, which happened on that freaking, freaky Monday for the Japanese market. And the Japanese market really looked like it's really bottomed. So I'm not sure whether or not Bitcoin is necessarily going to make another round lower. I can totally see it going sideways. And I can potentially see it going down to like 53. I can see these things happening. But I just don't know whether or not it has enough juice to do that. And on the 2-week chart, you have the Bollinger Band here. I put up the Bollinger Band here. The 2-week chart actually is a pretty decent way to look at this cycle because really during the bear market, it got kind of rejected here. This is going to be like a 40-week moving average. It kind of got rejected over here. And over here, it flipped it from resistance to support, found support, bounced off it once, bounced off it twice, went way far, way too fast, and just cooled down for about 6 months or so. And so far, it looks like we've just kind of been bouncing, right? The only thing I don't think I like about it is how it's really starting to kind of flatten here a little bit. But, you know, and I would like to see, you know, the price at least close above this 40-week moving average is going to be around 58,820, somewhere around there. That would be nice, you know. If it doesn't, then, you know, so be it. But yeah, it just seems like it's just using that as kind of like a support, you know. Hard for me to say exactly what's going to happen, because if you were too deterministic, if you were just looking at the weekly here, it looks like it was just going to find support, keep going higher. But in reality, is that this whole big giant trend over here that happened within the matter of like 4 or 5, really happened within like 4 months. It's really taken a lot of bullish energy. It really went for like, you know, 2.5, 3x, and it just needed time to cool down. And as it cools down, it always looks scary. And as it looks scary, I remember how people were really, really scared right down here too, around the 25, 26,000 range. And right now, people are also scared again. But the reality is, we did have a little bit of a negative sloping 20-week moving average, you know, but it is starting to kind of flatten out over here. And we're starting to really trying to re-challenge that here again, right? And you also have some pretty decent wick underneath here. So as far as I'm concerned, I still think that most likely either sideways for maybe another few weeks or a couple of months. I can totally see that happening. Or it could go down. I mean, the Bollinger Band is kind of expanding down, so it's going to have some room for it to go down to like 53,000. I think it's entirely possible. If it does, then, you know, it's not going to be very good for like the miners or MicroStrategy or anything like that, right? But I just think that there are some positive things I've seen with Bitcoin that I'm just a little bit, you know, skeptical still about anything too entirely bearish. Although that's your downside risk right there, or potentially even lower. Like, if it wicks down again, if it does that thing again where it goes down and touch like 48,000 again for the month of September, because everybody thinks September is going to be a bearish month, right? Everybody thinks September is going to be a bearish month. If it goes down and it bounces up again, and if it closes like above 58, 59,000 again, that would be a very, very nice bottom. That would be like a very nice tweezer bottom. I'm not sure we're necessarily going to end up getting that, because I think we really did end up kind of pushing the envelope in August. So I'm not really sure whether or not we're going to end up getting that. Let's talk about a couple of other Bitcoin correlated assets. I think Matt has asked about CleanSpark. So I'm just going to get right to CleanSpark here. And it does look ugly, right? Like, initially, there are a lot of things that are looking positive for it. Maybe we're just kind of ranging sideways. We don't let energy push inside the cloud, but when it ranges sideways for a while, it either is going to break up or break down in a very, you know, spectacular fashion and end up breaking down, which I guess in hindsight, it's not unreasonable, just because of how crazy it went from like $3.4 all the way to like $25 in the sheer matter of like 5 months. So it's not the end of the world to think about correcting down to the current level right now. Like, if you just look at, you know, like a higher time frame, like it still kind of looked more or less like a reasonable correction after a big giant move up, right? So it does end up, this month did end up breaking down underneath an important Fibonacci level. I'm going to show you a couple of hopium, don't worry. I'm going to stop talking bearish here, but I'm going to talk a little bit about like the positive signs I'm seeing here too. But yeah, it did end up breaking underneath the 0.236, which, you know, that's unfortunate. Closing a month below that is not like an all be all. Just, you know, like, it doesn't really bother me. Sometimes you can close a month above that. It doesn't necessarily mean it's going to hold, right? You could end up just having the next month just breaking all the way down and push through like to Fibonacci level. Same thing here. It could potentially just break back up, and then actually could challenge the cloud again for the month September, October. So that doesn't really bother me that much. I'll tell you, and on the weekly too, like, it did fall over the cloud, right? It did end up having a little bit of bearish engulfing candle for the last 2 candles over here. So that's, you know, considered to be bearish. So there's a lot of things to not like about this chart on the short term. It did end up finding support here. It is going to have a lot more friction here between like around the 10s and things like that. Do I think price is going to go down to like 9, 8, or 7? Possible. I'm not going to say it's impossible because it is on a short-term downtrend. It is possible, even if it goes all the way down to like 7.39 at this Fibonacci level, that will still be a higher low, right? It's possible. Do I think the likelihood of that is happening? I still think the likelihood of that happening is still not high because you're currently finding support over here. And on top of that, let me get rid of the Ichimoku. So let's talk about a couple of things that I find to be bullish on this chart, instead of just talking about bearish all the time. First thing first, the super trend is still intact. I did like a members only video talk about the super trend. Super trend is still intact. Like this is still a higher low, and it found support exactly where you would expect to find support at the bottom of the super trend. Secondly, if you do the Bollinger Band, you see that currently price and I'm closing week way underneath the low Bollinger Band here, right? So that really does tell me, just like how price is way underneath the low Bollinger Band over here, like currently it's doing the same thing. Just like how in price, it doesn't mean the price won't go lower, right? Because the Bollinger Band could continue to expand, it could potentially go lower. But whenever things just kind of like getting way outside of a Bollinger Band on the uptrend, you know that it's not sustainable. And usually some pretty strong move can come within weeks, right? Same thing over here. You could go up a lot higher, even challenge the Fibonacci level up above, but it's not really sustainable, right? So I think that currently we're just kind of a little bit way outside the low Bollinger Band. There's just a lot of energy to the downside to try to track. The bears are really, really trying to jerk the price down further. And I'm not sure whether or not like it's going to end up just continue going down. It's just pretty overextended to the downside right now, right? Could it go down further over time? Sure, but I would expect maybe a little bit more retracement to the mean. And if you end up having some retracement to the mean, then this could potentially be a higher low, and CleanSpark potentially go up a lot higher, right? So you never know. And I do want to show you one thing, which is something that I don't really talk a lot about, but this is something that Atrix Crypto has really kind of brought to my attention, which is this order block detector. Order block detector by Lux Algo. If I just pull that up here, and I'm going to do a different time frame. I'm going to do the daily time frame. Basically, what you're seeing here, the green right here is the order blocks, and the red right here is the selling, right? Green down here is the buying pressure. So there's a lot of secret buying pressure right now that's been happening, and it looks like price just kind of basically just went down to that level. And it looks like it's finding potentially some pretty decent support. Even look at a lower time frame, looks like it's trying to be forming a little bit more of a bottom over here. On the 2-hour chart, you can see like a pretty significant order block is happening over here for buying pressure. So, price in the short term could potentially bounce up to like around 11.7, somewhere around there. That would be something to consider, and you're really talking about the small selling block over here. And you're talking about selling block all the way back up to like around 17 here on the lower time frame, right? On the daily chart, talking about maybe another selling block around like 12.5 or so, but a lot of buying pressure down here. Now, I did read, and the Market Maestro did also pose that they may be interested in doing more dilution. They are, I understand what you're saying. They're potentially looking for more dilution, but they've been diluting. And I think that there's a potential that a lot of times these things get priced in already, because CleanSpark really has been underperforming a lot of the other miners over the last couple of months or so. Like it just has been absolutely underperforming, right? So whenever that happens, and whenever there are these like kind of negative news that come out, with people speculating things like that, could it bring some further downward pressure? Sure, it can. Could it end up closing the daily gap over here around 7.3? Sure, it can. But does it have to? No. Like it's just like whenever things are up here, everybody thinks that it's good, things are going to the moon. Like it doesn't. It just goes sideways and punishing you. So where is it to say that it has to, just because there's some diluting news and things have been giving you some perspective, or things have gone from like $25 to around like $9 or $8, like $9, right? So who's there to say that not a lot of things have already been kind of priced in? Hey Jules. Hey Margin Call. Hey the usual suspects. Hey Ivan. Thank you so much for for joining. Brandon, welcome. Matthew Batterson, welcome. I just want to say that like those are kind of like my little bit of hopiums here for that, and also just in general, I just think that overall there's not even like a trend line. Like there's not like it's things are. Can things correct a little bit further and still be bullish? Yes. Like if you can things go back to this line over here, it can still be bullish, right? But and another thing too is if I look at the monthly chart, I'm going to zoom back out here. I'm going to turn off the Fibonacci level here, and I'm also going to do the Bollinger Band here. You still got a rising, 20-month moving average, and that you still haven't really touched it. Could it touch it and use it as support? Yeah. Does it have to? No. And that would still be technically a flipping from resistance here to support, right? Like there's technically speaking, like you should still be leaning bullish closer to like a pretty strong support level over here, right? So that's really all I have to say about CleanSpark. It's really tough for me to be like super bullish and say, oh yeah, things are going to be fine for September, October. Do I think that things are still going to be fine overall? It depends on where you think Bitcoin's going to go, right? I see the comment here saying that Bitcoin won't break 100 this cycle. That's an absolute statement. I think there's a possibility that it doesn't, but I don't know why you would know that. Just like I don't know why some people would know that things are going to go up to like 200 or 300K. Like I don't know why they would know that, right? All I know that is that the macroeconomics environment is really not that scary. I can talk a little bit more about that maybe towards the end. But I'm going to go through the rest of the miners chart here. And I can't talk about CleanSpark without talking about Mara. And I can't talk about Mara without going through the weekly chart and showing my fork here. I still think that it's just on the uptrend and it's just going up on the channel and it's just backtesting a fib level, as well as the bottom of the channel here. Back in August 2024, VIX went up to 60. I still think that it would probably gravitate up back towards like around the 20 area. That's still what I think, right? And if you're also looking on the daily, and I was kind of showing the, actually, let's see, if I was kind of showing like the 2-hour order block, I guess it's not really any orders here, unlike CleanSpark, where there's like a big giant order block here. So, but if you are looking at the overall structure, and I'm not even using any like particular indicators or anything over here, right? If you're just looking at overall structure, there's a range. The top of the range is around, I would say, like 21, 22 over here, where throughout the entire 2021, it's been finding support here before it broke down, right? So around 21, 22 is the top of this range. At the bottom of the range is going to be probably closer to around like 15 or 16, somewhere around here, right? Where you have all these wicks over here. You have a lot of wicks over here. So right now, like Mara has just really, truly just been stuck in the range for about like 8 months now, you would think that it's looking, a little bit more and more bearish over time if it continues to just kind of go sideways here. But overall, again, I still think it's forming a channel. And I still think that it's backtesting this Fibonacci level here at 0.136. And don't get me wrong, I mean, there's always that possibility whenever things just kind of backtested multiple times, it could break down. There's always that possibility, right? But again, you're supposed to be bullish at support. And right now, if anything, I think we're still closer to the bottom part of the range, both in terms of a channel as well as in terms of Fibonacci levels. So I still lean more bullish on Mara. Bitfarm has the same exact chart. To be honest, it just got rejected here to 0.236, but it has the same exact chart. I don't really have anything else like clever to say about it. If you look at the, I guess this is the Ichi cloud, it's finding some support over here, right? If you look at the Ichimoku, it is getting rejected from the cloud over here. But unlike Mara, Mara hasn't even challenged the cloud. Like Bitfarm challenged the cloud, and currently it's getting a little bit rejected over there, right? CIFR is finding support right at the bottom of the Ichimoku cloud here on the weekly. On the 2-week, it's still inside the cloud. On the monthly, on the monthly, the 20-month moving average is still crawling up, and this still looks like a pretty bullish pattern. So CIFR, I'm not that concerned about actually, even though price looked like you had like a 3 bearish engulfing candle that engulfed all 3 of these candles over here for the month of August, which is unfortunate. but I still think that you're getting a little bit closer to, to support here. IREN is one of the more, bullish chart, even though you have like a 7% down day on Friday. But really, if you just kind of zoom out, it's basically back testing this symmetric triangle here almost perfectly at the apex, bounce back up above. So far, getting rejected here at a 20-week moving average, and then close bounce back from the 0.236 Fibonacci level. So IREN is one of the more bullish one, I gotta say, and it's also finding support here on the volume shelf over here, right? So if you're able to continue to find volume shelf support, then it might end up gravitating up to the next volume shelf, which is going to be like maybe we can rechannel to like $12, right? WULF is definitely one of the more bullish ones. I mean, it didn't even got closed underneath the 20-week moving average here. So I think WULF looks like it wants to gravitate back towards the 0.136 level. And I think that overall it's still looking pretty bullish, right? So you have a little bit of discrepancy between different miners, where you have CleanSpark, who has been extremely bullish, has really kind of rolling over here on a short term. For Mara, it has just been very equivocal. Even though it was extremely bullish here from October all the way to December, it made a very monstrous move. Same thing with Bitfarms. CIFR has just been slowly grinding up, whereas IREN, whatever you call it, really went sideways for a whole year and then finally had a big breakout, right? And just basically make it a little bit higher low. WULF, same thing. You basically have WULF kind of going sideways for almost the entire year, and finally had a breakout and form a higher low and up, right? So I think that the more traditional, the bigger miners, I think they're just lagging behind. But I do think that most likely, if Bitcoin is finding some pretty good footings, I think the miners are going to follow. And I do think that miners have corrected a lot already. So there's a potential that even if Bitcoin drops down to the 53 range, you think miners go all the way down to the volume shelf down here, 4 or 5, right, for CleanSpark. But I don't think that that's going to happen, just because you already had a pretty big correction with these miners in relative to Bitcoin. So it's going to be hard for me to say for sure, but I still think that CIFR, IREN, and WULF is telling me something. Bitcoin's telling me something. So there's still and Mara and Bitfarm still on up channel up, as well as CleanSpark is still forming a higher low. I still think on the macro side it's going to be okay. Is September going to be a pretty brutal month? It could be. Do I want to sell it and try to buy back in? I don't know. I mean, everybody's saying that September is going to be bearish, so that does make me feel very, very cautious about that. That September is going to be bearish, because pretty much everybody's calling for it. But I like BTBT. It's been going sideways, but it's reclaimed the bull support band. I've been averaging into BTBT a little bit here. I'm not bearish on something like this, where you have kind of like 3 white soldier kind of thing, have another red candle kind of back test a rising 20 and holding. So I think BTBT probably is one of the better looking charts out there. So I'm actually DCAing into BTBT right now. This, regardless of what Bitcoin does. That's kind of what my thoughts are with that. MSTR, I gotta say, it closed a month right about the wick over here from the previous cycle, not all-time high, but the previous cycle high, right? It closed almost exactly right there, right? So it does make you think it's still a back test of a previously very important level, and it held, right? It held 3 months in a row. You have a pretty decent wick over here, a pretty decent wick the month before. So it still makes me wonder, I can't be that bearish on Bitcoin, because MicroStrategy is still looking pretty decent. If anything, MicroStrategy is, I'm going to turn off the Fibonacci levels here. If anything, MicroStrategy is looking even, slightly better than Bitcoin. Just looking at the MicroStrategy over Bitcoin chart. So this is you just type in MicroStrategy over BTC USD. You can pull this up. And I'm going to turn off the Bollinger Band here, because that's just a little bit too much noise. But it might be subjected to a little bit of a bearish crossover here with the Tenkan Kijun, but price is still holding above the Tenkan Kijun for the week, right? Despite of how bearish things have been for Bitcoin. MicroStrategy over Bitcoin chart is still holding pretty decent. Right, so I still find this to be a pretty decent chart. Now, Coinbase found support where it needed to find support at here on the weekly Ichimoku, right? It looks like, initially over here trying to break inside the cloud, wasn't able to break through, and was able to break through here. Once it broke through the cloud, it really just ran really, really high, right? Everybody got super excited all the way from like 70 all the way up to like 280. And then now you're simply correcting from 280 down to like, 160, 180 range, and you're basically backtesting the weekly Ichimoku cloud. So I don't know whether or not I'm that bearish on coin, to be honest. And then another thing too, I don't have it here anymore. Another thing too that I think is very, very good about Coinbase, it did end up closing a little bit underneath the 0.382 Fibonacci level. And I drew this Fibonacci level from like the all-time high to the all-time low. And this is a linear, Fibonacci level. And I do think that is closing close to this Fibonacci level. It didn't really close above of that, but it did bounce from the cloud, right? So I can't really be that bearish on Coinbase here. And I think it's just basically finding support where it needed to find support at. I did have another chart where I did a pitchfork. I'm going to try to do this a little bit. Sometimes a little bit cumbersome to do like pitchfork right off the bat. But I just wanted to kind of show you. It's going to be a little bit hard to do here, and I don't want to waste too much of your time here. But basically, if you draw it the right way and if you touch enough points, it's just basically, and this is probably going to be good enough for now. I can adjust it. I can bring it down, bring it up. It doesn't really matter. But if you just look at like the Coinbase chart, it just looks like it's just forming a channel on the way up. I think I could potentially, let me move these guys over here. Yeah, that might be a little bit of a better representation in terms of what I'm thinking. It's basically just channeling up, and it's just like what I was showing you with Mara. It's just like what I was showing you with Bitfarms. It's at the bottom of a range, both in terms of diagonal, pitchfork, as well as the Fibonacci level. So I still cannot really be that entirely bearish on Coinbase. On the monthly, I had my pitchfork up here. I already drew that. Get rid of that. That was just a rough one here. On the monthly, a couple of things. One is it still look very, very bullish, right? In terms of the 20-month moving average pointing up. If you're talking about Ichimoku, you still have the Kijun down here as support. So I can't really be that entirely bearish. If you look at the super trend, it's definitely still positive. If you look at the Super Ichi, you are kind of breaking outside the range here. Initially, it was kind of stuck inside the range, but you end up breaking out of the range over here. But you're finding some pretty important support down below, right? Overall, this is still just a higher low after this monstrous run all the way from like $30 all the way to like close to like 300, Everything else has been cooling off. All the Bitcoin early assets has been cooling off. Altcoins been cooling off. I actually think Coinbase is holding pretty well. Considering, could September be another bearish month where it making another wick underneath below, and hopefully we're able to find support? And if that does happen, then I think it's going to be pretty bullish. I also just like the fact it has a big giant wick that just tells me that I think the month doesn't always necessarily have to go down. I hate monthly candles if they don't have a wick. Like this monthly candle here on the downtrend, like that one doesn't have a wick there at all. Yeah, it's going to have some bearish continuation, But I like the fact that it has a very, very nice wick on down below. That makes me feel a little bit safer about this stock. So, I talked about coin, talked about the major miners. Let me just kind of go through the list here. You asked about CleanSpark. I talked about that. Asked about IREN CORZ. Margin Call asked about CORZ. And I got to say, I like this wick over here, On the monthly, there's really not much to chart. On the weekly, I like the fact that it's trying to reclaim this, volume shelf up here, and on top of this volume shelf, that's kind of where it's hanging out at, right? So I'm not that bearish on CORZ. I think things are just like way too far overextended. Trying to backtest the rising 20-week moving average, and on the weekly chart, it's still holding the weekly Super Ichi Tenkan here as support. And it's still holding the weekly Ichimoku Tenkan here as support, right? So there are a lot of pretty positive things to say about that. And so far, you have an inside candle over here with a candle body inside this candle over here. So it's probably going to end up favoring bullish continuation. I'm not that bearish on CORZ, but it is at resistance. You can see that resistance is like right here. If you look at Matt's, the Great Matsky's again chart, like CORZ is still underneath resistance, so you might still need some time to kind of break back above. I'm not really able to see any like major resistance here. Super trends bullish. Yeah, I don't have anything bad to say about this chart, to be honest, with the exception I think there's some resistance up here. You also have a little bit of volume shell resistance here too, but per Matt scan chart, if you look at it, like you are going to have some resistance up here to kind of have to break back above, and you do have to have time to really digest this big giant move from like 2.6 all the way to like 10.7 all the way up to like $12. Right? You have to kind of digest this move up here too. So it would not surprise me if it goes down a little bit further. But so far, I like the way the chart looks. If you weren't wondering about like the risk level, you're really talking about maybe you could even break down to like 8.5, 8.8, somewhere around there. I think that's entirely possible. And if that does happen, I think the 20-week moving average is going to be catching it and try and push price a little bit higher together with it. That is that. I think I'm going to move a little bit away because Matt Johnson, thank you for joining us, a member, by the way. I'm going to get to your request here, and the request here is HIMS. And there are some concerns with the HIMS chart, but honestly, not too much concern, because all HIMS did is basically just came back down, closed the gap, and then came back down, test this level again twice, right? You are closing underneath the 20-week moving average. That is going to mean that you're going to have some, potential resistance above to trying to break back above, but this is still a higher low. You already have this price over here already back tested this level over here, so I don't think it has to go down back test further. I think price basically back testing the current level over here as well as this level over here after this big giant breakout on a gap up, right? So I am not really that entirely bearish. It's still about the super Ichi cloud here on the weekly. On the weekly, on the Ichimoku, I guess it could potentially have some room to go down, but again, I don't think it necessarily has to drop that far down, because that's the thing that every time we have like a gap close, that can serve as support level. And you're also having a pretty important horizontal zone over here too, and some price history over here too. So I don't think that it has to really drop that much further. You also find some support here at the volume shelf, right? Now, with that said, if you end up breaking down below, then you're going down to like $12. Like that's going to be where it's going to go. But right now, it looks like it kind of wants to get stuck in a range here between anywhere from like 14 point something to maybe around like 17. It looks like it just kind of wants stuck in a range between these two volume shelves here until it finds a direction. On the higher time frame chart, and again, I haven't looked at the HIMS chart for a long time. I'm just letting you know, I haven't looked at HIMS chart for a very long time. So I actually don't know what HIMS has been doing. I'm really just going off the fly here. On a higher time frame, you know that this correction is warranted. The reason why it's warranted is because you have months number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 way outside the monthly upper Bollinger Band. And whenever you have something like this, you're going to getting punished for it, either by price or by time. Over here, like you have 2 monthly candle closing above the upper Bollinger Band. That's not sustainable, right? Whenever I see something like this, especially a lot of wicks above, that's usually a little bit of a cautionary sign. Like I'm not saying like if you're a long-term investor for HIMS, I still think this is a long-term bullish chart. But if you're like trying to enter, like the time to buy is probably not up here. The time to buy may be here or lower, right? I'm being obvious, I know, but like, I mean, I think right now is potentially a pretty good level to buy, because again, you have some price history over here. At the next level that might be good to buy would be around like 12.5, somewhere around there. And the 20-month is also probably going to end up rising up a little higher over time to serve as support, right? So that might be a pretty decent risk-reward ratio here. Looking at the monthly, I think it's closing the month a little bit below the kitchen here, and so it's a little bit unfortunate. It's closing above the Super Ichi Tenkan kitchen. It's a little bit unfortunate, but that's not the end all be all. Sometimes you can end up having things that are closing like above or underneath, and it doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be bad, right? Like over here, it closed underneath the Tenkan. Next thing you know, the next one just end up bouncing back up in a very, very strong way, right? So it was very much of a very powerful bull trend that got exhausted. based on looking at the monthly Bollinger Band, and it just needed to correct. And yeah, so if you're long-term bullish on HIMS, which is still a higher low, I think it's not a bad stock to get into. Just know that you can potentially have some risk level down further, and that's possible. There's no guarantee, right? I think I would like HIMS a lot better if the wick was longer, but it ends up this one actually ended up closing right near the bottom of the range. So it does make me wonder, kind of like over here, right? It does make me wonder whether or not they might have another like a couple of candles to kind of go maybe hit the $12 range before going higher, or it doesn't have to. You know, you are at some pretty decent support here on the volume shelf. Maybe it's just a false breakdown underneath the kitchen over here. Maybe it's just going to keep bouncing up. I don't know, you know, but so far those are your risk level. You know, if you're really bullish on fundamentals of HIMS, which again I can see the case for that, then you know right now might not be a bad entry. Not financial advice, of course, but you know, just know that what you're getting yourself into. Let me check a couple other requests here. Yeah, Doge has been absolutely brutal, and I agree with you. I think Doge probably won't do anything too crazy until Bitcoin really gets back above its all-time high, which is basically what happened last time. Like the breakout on January 2021 happened. Let me see here. I'm going to back test this with Bitcoin, right? This is a monthly chart, right? The December of 2020 was when price really had truly broke above the previous all-time high, right? So a month later, that's when Doge ran, right? So you're really talking about if this is December 2020 candle that is coming soon, and I don't know when that's going to come to really break the previous all-time high, which is going to be just a few months ago. If it is to come, then I think that Doge could run, and this is December 2020, right? Like the next candle after that, Doge really went berserk, right? So I think maybe the month after Bitcoin hits all-time high again is maybe when you're really looking at, you know, Doge really making a big giant run. But even before that happens, you can see that for about 8 or 9 months over here, Doge has just been forming like higher high and higher low. It looks like it wants to break up to the upside, and you can tell that just by simply looking at the 20-month moving average. You can tell that because price just been kind of, you know, going sideways, but the 20 is finally like peaking upwards a little bit. It's still a little bit flat, but it's upwards and serving as some pretty good support. And eventually price just kind of went up, right? What is price doing right now? Do you see some similarities in terms of what has been happening over here versus over here, where price is just basically kind of, you know, came back up here, kind of get close to the 20 here, 20's flatten out, went way outside the upper Bollinger Band here, got punished, came back down, back tested 20, getting some setup here for another month or so before going up, right? Maybe the cycle is just slower, because right now I still see a lot of similarities between here and here, but this last 5 months has just been absolutely brutal for a lot of Doge holders, which may just be getting set up to kind of back test to 20, kind of like how it did over here. Yeah, so I'm not sure if I would rule out Dogecoin. I actually have I'm adding to Dogecoin every week still, and I still think that overall Dogecoin is most likely going to work out, although it's just been a slow grind. If you're into Elliott Wave, I think this is a perfect wave 1, and this is a perfect wave 2. But I'm not an Elliott Wave cat, so I'm not gonna like be all Elliott Wave on you. I got to say, to put things into perspective, this is D low, right? And this is a high here, higher low, higher high, higher low, right? I do have to put into perspective here that this is a bull trend, and the 20-month moving average is showing that. I also have to put in perspective that you have 40-something candles over here so far, and all of those 40-something candles is an inside candle for this big giant green candle over here in April 2021. When you have an inside candle like this, generally, or you have a bunch of inside candles over here, generally it means that it's building up a lot of energy for some bullish continuation. And, or actually, I shouldn't say just bullish continuation. Usually it's bringing a lot of energy to continue its primary trend. And for Dogecoin, what is the primary trend? This is an asset that's been making mostly higher highs and higher lows, right? So the primary trend would be up after it breaks out from this inside candle over here, or the engulfing candle, I should say. So there are a lot of things. I'm still pretty bullish for a longer term for Dogecoin. I do think anything that's under a leaf like 10 cents is still a pretty good buying opportunity. I don't know why the market is giving us more time. I mean, actually, I do, but I don't know what it knows for sure. But I still think like anything that's less than like 10 cents is probably a good buying opportunity. Not financial advice, of course. Yes, now that I'm on Doge, I think a couple of you have requested. Brandon, you asked about Fetch AI. And honestly, nothing has really happened with Fetch AI. It looks like a pretty bullish chart on a higher time frame. It looks very, very similar compared to the look over here, doesn't it? Basically, it had a big giant wick that had back tested this breakout of this very long standing level really ever since that this came out in Coinbase, right? Your back testing level had a very, very good reaction, bounced all the way back up. And you also have back tested the 20-month moving average and successfully bounced from it. And if I pull up some of the other indicators, I mean, sure, the monthly Ichimoku doesn't look great, monthly Tsukuichi doesn't look great, but overall the market structure is nothing surprising. It's just absolutely insane in terms of bull run that it had, and it's just absolutely insane the bear run that it had, right? If I look at it in a little bit of a closer sense, you can also see like it really just bounced perfectly where it needed to bounce at. Like I drew a line over here, it just bounced and back tested this level after a big giant breakout. Like when you have the resistance turn support, there's really nothing bearish about it, with the exception that if you end up buying up here, again, if you're buying up here, when you have two big giant green candles, they're just way outside the upper Bollinger Band, you're probably going to have having a little bit of retracement to the mean here, right? So I still don't think it's a bearish chart. It's still a higher high and higher low, but it's just testing our patience. Because of that, and because it also has a lot of altcoins look like this, and because of that, and also because you're also underneath like the 20-week moving average, and also the Bollinger support band is also going to be right there. You're underneath the Bollinger support band. You're going to have a little bit of resistance. Like Bitcoin looks like this right now, right? That's what Bitcoin looks like. So as far as I'm concerned, I think that Fetch AI is just going to probably need some additional energy to push back above. I think it might end up having another couple of like weekly candles underneath over here, and maybe do a little bit of a rising 3 pattern before building up enough energy to really try to break through above, and maybe wait for the Bollinger support band to kind of get a little bit more flatter, right? So that's what I'm thinking. I mean, on the higher time frame, I think it's still an excellent chart. Lower time frame, I think you might still need some time, maybe weeks, for it to really, truly become more bullish and have more bullish momentum going. The other one that you've requested was AAVE. And if I had to talk about AAVE, I got to say that this looks like XBI, actually. Yeah, I'll show you what I mean by that. This looks like XBI. It's like stuck it's stuck underneath resistance over here. Not that. This. It's just stuck underneath resistance right here. Like it's stuck here from this horizontal resistance over here. Very nice cup, very nice handle. Make another cup. Like this is very, very beautiful accumulation pattern. It's just at resistance right now. I don't know when it's going to break above resistance. The Bollinger Band, because things are just kind of going sideways for too long, Bollinger Band hasn't really expanded here on the weekly. So you did have a pretty bullish candle up here, and you are end up closing the week here potentially on Sunday above the upper Bollinger Band, right? So that might mean that maybe a little bit further sideways to go here for another few weeks. I think a lot of these have a very, very similar story. I still think that this, if anything, it could potentially form a little bit of a bull flag over here. maybe go down a little bit further. I think that's possible before putting up energy, just because things are not expanding enough. There's not really like any impulsiveness to this big giant push quite just yet for you to really truly have like a more long-term sustainable bull trend. So I think that overall looks good, but is at resistance, maybe there are a few more weeks to go. That's kind of what I'm thinking. Now, you want to talk about targets? I mean, I can, but it's really like we're at resistance, so let's not talk about targets, right? So that's going to be, I think, all the altcoins that you guys have asked about. What's LDW, Diane? Oh, yeah, Labor Day weekend, sorry. Okay. Let me see here. I think I see a couple other requests that I might have missed. Somebody asked about Palantir. Thank you guys for coming on. IBKR. Oh, no, I don't think that's a chart request. I'm looking through here. Somebody asked about Palantir, so I'm going to go straight to it. I had a spaces on X this morning, and we talked about Palantir. The great Masby was there. I was there, and Sevens was there. All Sevens was there. He's like a dark pool guy. He looks at volume, and he really thinks that there is going to be a good chance that we may not go down that low. He's thinking maybe more like 27, 29 would be a great buying opportunity based on what he's seeing on the dark pools. So I think that there is a potential, and that's kind of what I'm seeing here on my chart too, right? The one thing that has really kind of got me a little bit stoked about Palantir, and I know I shouldn't be, because when I get stoked about something, I get burned. Right? I mean, like, just stick with the chart, talk about possibilities, don't be too deterministic, right? But I do think that the weekly candle here that looks like a very, very nice cross really has maybe just starting to kind of backtest this volume shelf level here. And so far, there's nothing really too bearish about this candle here. Could it end up having a little bit further candle down? I can still see it potentially going down to like 27, 28 and hit the diagonal line over here, find support over here, which is going to be confluent with the volume shelf over here. But I can totally see that happening. I can totally see that price go down further to hit some of the like Ichimoku weekly support zone over here, right at the diagonal line, right? I can see it going further and even hit like maybe 25 over here with the rising 20-week moving average, although I think if the next couple of weeks is going to rise up a lot higher. So I can potentially see it back testing like maybe 27, 28. I'm not sure about 25. You do have a big giant volume shelf here, so 25 is going to be as low as it goes. You also have some higher support levels too. If you look at the Sopaichi, it got really close to the Sopaichi Tenkan there around 28 or 29, right? So the way I see this is you had a bullish candle over here. This could have been the bottom. And if that's the bottom, it's just kind of insane in terms of how much pressure there is. And it could end up probably gravitating up to around like 35. And 35 would probably be a pretty strong resistance, just simply based on Fibonacci. Let me see. I haven't drew this, and I'm not going to do a perfect job here. But let me do like from $45 down to like $6. Let me see. Yeah, so another thing too, just right off the bat, it basically found resistance right almost near the top of the pitchfork. It came back down and just back to the 0.618, right? The 0.618 is the golden ratio, which generally serves as a pretty decent support. So there's a possibility that this could be it, like it hits 30 and that's it, maybe 29, 28, 27, 25 maybe. But regardless, it's going to be a higher low, and regardless, it's probably going to favor bullish continuation over time. I don't really care. I'm just, this is like a long-term hold for me. I don't want to buy up here though, but this is a long-term hold for me. Like my average is like around, initially it was around like 12, and then I like kept buying over like the whole like year over here, and now it's like 16. So I'm not going to buy anymore. I'm happy where I'm at, and if it goes down to like 25, I don't know, I might be buying again. Like that's kind of, so that's why I don't think it's going to go that much lower. But yeah, that's really what I'm seeing here with Palantir. don't have a whole lot to add. I am very, very bullish on Palantir on the long run. I do think that the long-term chart looks, absolutely amazing. And I think that the bullishness on the longer term has probably just got started, because we just had a bullish cross here around like 8 months ago, and now the Tenkan is rising up quickly. And I think if you give it another, couple of years, I really do think that it's not impossible by like 3 to 5 years to hit triple digits. I really think it's entirely possible, based on fundamentals too. But yeah, so that's that. Welcome, Jules. ASTS. Why do you guys keep talking about ASTS? Am I right about shouldn't buy, when things are just way too overextended? Look at that Katana on the monthly. This thing is just going to space. And looking at this like monthly close over here, candles number 1, 2, 3, and 4, and the candle doesn't even touch the monthly upper Bollinger Band. It's getting a little bit overextended. The weekly looks good, but like you shouldn't buy this big giant candle that's like way outside upper Bollinger Band here, right? Obviously, I'm gonna pull back down. A little bit of bearish engulfing here, but not too bad. I don't really necessarily like saying, oh, bearish engulfing is gonna go down a lot further. Like, I don't always think that, but I do think that the trend is starting to look a little bit more worrisome here. I'm going to pull up the wave trend oscillator here, and it's just look really toppy, I'm not seeing any bearish divergence here on the weekly. You would imagine there would be, but it does look like it's kind of get a little bit exhausted. Looks like you potentially have a little bit of like a more bearish cross here coming. Kind of like it did over here, but it didn't matter. It just kept on going up, so don't listen to me. But I also didn't think that was going to be a good risk reward ratio to buy over here either. It looks like it was kind of really over, but it didn't, But right now, I still wouldn't, like, even if price just keeps going to space, I just worried about this monthly candle close. It doesn't look pretty. Whenever you have something like this, and I talked about it the other day too, whenever you have something like this, where you have like 4 monthly candle closing way outside of the Bollinger Band, you could have a little bit more juice going up. Who knows? Maybe it's just like Bitcoin during the 2020, 2021 cycle. Maybe this is a candle we're at right now, and have 2 more candles to push it above. Like, that's entirely possible. I mean, I don't know what I'm talking about, but like, do I really want to buy here at this particular point? If I have a choice, I don't know. That's what I worry about ASTS. That's what I worry about it. Like, look at SMCI. Look at SMCI. Look at what SMCI did. It did some absolutely incredible moves up, right? But you end up having some pretty gigantic punishment here, right? So anyway, it's all about risk reward. I don't know anything about the fundamentals, and as far as I know, maybe the fundamentals are just absolutely excellent, and now price is kind of reflecting that. I don't know, but even if that's the case, I still think that thing's a little bit overextended. I'm just a little bit more worried about it. Rocket Lab, and I think somebody asked me about SOFI before too, so I'll talk a little bit more about SOFI. Rocket Lab is bullish. Rocket Lab is bullish. This is a bullish chart. I don't care if the thing's kind of going sideways here for so long, but like the technicals are finally flipping bullish. I like that the 20-month moving average is going up, and like how it's using that as support. Rocket Lab has got something here, guys. I mean, I like it. Looking at the Ichimoku, yeah, you don't quite have the bullish cross yet, but it's getting close. Wave trend oscillator on the monthly looks great. Yeah, I like it. I don't know what else to say. Looking at the weekly Ichimoku also look very nice. Rejection, breakthrough, backtest as support, right? So it may not end up touching the cloud, although I do have, and just look at how like the cloud gets touched all the time. I do have a strong suspicion that probably going to come back down and test like the 5.8 level would be my best guess. If it touches 5.8, it might be a pretty decent area to buy. Not that it's not a decent area to buy now, you just have to know where your downside risks are, right? So 5.8, I mean, could it come back down, touch the bottom of the cloud? Anything's possible. It can go down to like 4.8, that's possible. But I can see it back testing after it got rejected here as resistance. I can see it back testing as support, which we still haven't done around 5.8. So that could potentially be a pretty decent area. But you did a pretty good wick over here, so I don't know. I mean, it's always tough for me to say, but this is a bullish chart. I like this, and I don't have anything bad to say about it. You are currently getting close to resistance over here around 7.3 to $8. This is a pretty strong resistance zone over here. Things are just essentially stuck in a range until the technicals work out, right? Sometimes you just have to wait for the technicals. You have a big giant drop over here. You're not just going to have a V-shaped recovery. It doesn't work that way. You have to wait for the 20-month moving average to curl down and flat before you're able to really have a more sustainable uptrend. That's what I'm seeing here, and I'm going to stick with that. Man, it's a lot of you guys commenting on it. I'm trying to find the chart request. I think I've really Dan, I'm the real cat. I think I'm a real cat, actually, matter of fact. So yeah, silly question. Somebody asked me about SOFI. I'm going to talk about SOFI, even though none of y'all are asking about it, because I mean, it reclaimed the 20-month moving average, guys. You know, the time there was kind of like support here. Nope, couldn't find support. Resistance. Now it's reclaiming it on a pretty nice hammer candle over here. It's still underneath a lot of the longer term like Ichimoku support. Like it got rejected here, the Tenkan and Kijun. It still had a bullish cross, but it still got rejected here like longer term. And that's okay. Looking at the weekly, you're also getting a little bit rejected over here at $8, right, as expected, and that's okay. Rejected. You're having a little bit more of a vulnerable area over here for price could potentially shoot up. So I think that I'm going to get to IOVA low gains because you're a member. I would never forget about your request. It's so weird to say because like I never thought that I was going to be a YouTuber like just earlier in the year, like in January of 2024. If you told me that I was going to be a YouTuber doing live stream, I would have laughed. But here I am addressing members' requests. Do I think that it has enough juice to break through short term? No, I don't, because I think that the upper Bollinger Band is going to serve as resistance. I do think that it probably needs to come back and back test some things down here around like 7.5, whatever. Probably going to go sideways here for a few weeks and then find an area of vulnerability and push through, right? So I'm still glad to be able to keep accumulating SOFI at under $8, but I do think that the momentum is shifting. And I do think that it is at resistance, but I'm just not sure how long this is going to last, right? Because it also didn't just get rejected in the clouds, it got rejected here at like a diagonal line over here. But this week did something that it hasn't done for a long time or ever. It broke above this bear market diagonal trend line that has been so brutal for a lot of SOFI holders. It broke above that this week. Because of that, I can see it totally coming back down to like 7.5, 7.4, maybe to like this part of the channel, kind of find some additional energy here going sideways before breaking through the cloud and just go up. And I have the $14 level still labeled over here. So yeah, I'm going to just leave it as that. IOVA, man, you guys are into biotech. Looking at this without using any indicators, I like the wicks below. I like the month close with like these decent wicks underneath it. Kind of like how it had like these decent wicks over here. When I see this, or like it reminds me of something like this. You have a few decent wicks underneath the low. I like this. And I also like how it's kind of like a little bit of a V shape and it's very symmetric. So I also like the fact that you have like 4 of these candles trying to break this one giant green candle over here. And all this is just basically back testing like this horizontal level over here. So even before I put up any like charts or anything like that, like I like this high over here and I like this higher low over here. And I think this higher low looks like it wants to hold because again, whenever you have like these kind of wicks underneath like that, it looks like this, it looks like this, it looks like this, or like conversely, it also looks like this, right? So it looks like it's probably going to be a pretty decent local bottom. Now I'm going to put some indicators here. 20-month moving average support. I love this look. It's finally flipped it from resistance to support, right? Went way too far away from the upper Bollinger Band, back test the 20, and held very, very beautifully, right? If you look at the Shimoku cloud, you are getting a little bit rejected up here by the Tenkan, but you have reclaimed the Kijun, right? So there are quite a few, pretty positive things to say about it. You are trying to reclaim the Tenkan up here on Sempaichi, but you're not able to do that quite just yet. But I do think that this is a beginning of a bull trend, and I like it. I like it. Well, I can't dislike this. This looks good. So, let's see. Yeah, I haven't done a firm yet. I could, but like, what's the point, right? You guys can go back and look at my bullish tweets. No, you can't anymore because I deactivated my account. But I tweeted about the firm since like May or June of like 2023. It's kind of sad. I can go back and like just looking back at my tweets and saying, "Look, I was bullish there," but you're just might take my word for it. But on the other hand, I think it's actually more healthier that way because who cares what I said before? It doesn't matter. I'm gonna have to regain my reputation again because I don't have any other charts that I did before to go back to. Just like y'all can't pull up any of the bad Tesla charts that I did before. But anyway, this bullish engulfing candle engulf how many months of candles? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so basically just reverse like half of your price action within just like a month, and not just within a month, really, like within just a couple of weeks. Why was I bullish on a firm? Why was I a fool to like keep buying in like the low 30s? Because it went ultimately to like the mid 20s, or even lower. If you count this week, it was like in the 22, right? Was I a fool to buy at the low 20s because of what I was seeing? Well, it depends on whether or not you're one of those folks that really want to time things perfectly. And if you don't time things perfectly, you're going to be in such pain, excruciating pain, that you can't sleep at night. Then yeah, I mean, you shouldn't buy stocks at all. Because there's always a possibility that it can go down further. But I just can't fathom how you have an uptrend on such big volume and you have a downtrend on such little volume that you're not going to get a candle like this. Like, how can you not get a big giant green candle like this? Thank you. Thank you, guys. How can you not get a big giant green candle like this? It's just a matter of time and patience before something like this happens. Like, I don't know what else to say. Like, it's like they're and you have all these like rate fears, like now like people fearing recession because of rate cuts. Like, none of this makes any sense. Just look at a firm. They didn't want to sell a firm for like months. There's just no buying pressure, but there's also no selling pressure. Things just kind of drifted, and then next thing you know, all it takes is just a little bit of volume here, and you can engulf the entire 6 months of like price action going downwards. So, do I think it's at resistance? Yeah, I think it's at resistance. At the top of this volume shelf over here, it's like getting a little bit close to the monthly Bollinger Band. So on the monthly, you still have some room to go, but on the weekly, man, do I think that price could go up higher even though price is just way outside of a Bollinger Band? Yes, I can. Look at over here. It can keep going up higher, right? And look at the big giant volume over here. Look at the big giant volume over here. Like a firm, there's some potential there. There's some potential there. I generally don't. I would not buy it here anymore. I would not buy. I'm just going to hold. I'm not buying here. the 20-week moving average have flipped from support to resistance to support almost perfectly. And you just made a higher low. Higher high, higher low. This looks like it wants to make a higher high. Yeah, I'm not, like, there's nothing bearish about this. I guess I'm done. You know, like, it's not short term. What can happen? Short term, I can totally see two scenarios here. One is that, like, a firm doesn't care because this volume is picking up, and it's because of this big giant downtrend on low volume. It could keep going up higher, maybe even hit like 50s, 60s, make another higher high, and then, like, it might give you a little bit of a look right here. It might end up rolling over and then, like, come back down, back test like the 40s, and then have some bullish continuation. I can see that potentially happening, right? Or I can just see that, hey, it's way overextend over here. I know you got some nice volume here, but it's at resistance. Came back down here, back, and I would love for that to happen. Come back to like the mid 30s to like back test some levels. I would love for that to happen, by the way, but I'm not sure if we're gonna get it. Yeah, that's a firm. JASMY. What would you like to know about the JASMY coin? Would you like to know about the JASMY coin? Let me see. I'll just do JASMY USD. I like the crypto thing. It's just looking like every other altcoin, to be completely honest with you. But I do have a pretty good, not pretty good like bag, but like a decent bag of JASMY. If you look at the bullish support band, it's starting as resistance. It's yeah, like this just looked like any other altcoin here at this weekly time frame. On the monthly time frame, it looks pretty nice, doesn't it? I mean, I can pull up like the Ichimoku, and it's kind of underneath of that, and it's not going to be that helpful. I can pull up the Subiichi, it's going to be way underneath of that. It's not going to be that helpful. But I was actually surprised, not surprised, but I was actually feeling more bullish here because it did not backtest, and I don't want to jinx this, okay? I don't want to jinx this, but it did not come back and backtest the add-on EVE over here. Like, it just didn't come back to backtest that area. So I am also going to say that it's also got like the 20-month moving average curling up to point out that, hey, this is still a pretty decent, you know, bull trend here. And all of this is still kind of a correction because things just kind of way outside of a bullish band here, just getting punished for it, you know. I have a bag. I'm not adding because I just don't want to add here. Next thing you know, just come back all the way down here because there's, like, technically speaking, that's still a possibility, but I just don't really necessarily buy that it's going to happen. If you're a head and shoulder guy, I guess this looks like a head and shoulder. I can show you plenty of head and shoulder examples that like didn't work before. But yeah, it's underneath resistance. But if you also looking at the like Ichimoku is also at support, right? So you're basically talking about things just kind of stuck in the range here. I think that it could potentially come back down to like the 1.5 cent range, somewhere around there. It could even go lower to the low Bollinger Band. I suppose it's possible, right? And then you also got a lot of these resistance up here around like 2.5 cents, somewhere around there. So it's stuck in a range between like 1.5 cents and 2.5 cents until further notice. So that's your risk level. I have a bag, you know, if it costs right, there's maybe like somewhere over here, I don't know. So like, I don't care, like whatever it goes to like 15 or it doesn't, it just ends up finding some support down here. It wants to just keep going up, great. I don't really care, but overall, I still like this chart just in general because it also got like a little bit of like a, you know, like a little bit of a flag to it. You know, like whenever I see something like this, I don't dislike it. I don't dislike these kinds of look. So who knows? Who knows? All I gotta say, higher time frame, 20 still looks good. This is one of the better looking altcoins, to be honest. But on the weekly time frame, it just looked like any other altcoins. So that's JASMY for you. And I kind of told you about the risk levels and the resistance levels. So Jules or Stiti? She's useless. How can you say that? That's anyway. I can't say anything bad about you guys. I want to thank you all. I have said a lot of really dumb things, and I've also said a lot of really smart things. Pretty much like my portfolio right now, like everything is up except for the miners, except for like MSTR, except for coin, and except for ARKG. Like everything else is up. Like even like SOFI is up, even AFRM is up. Like everything else is up. So that to me, and things just kind of go sideways for like way too far with Bitcoin. Like I just don't know. Like it just smells like there's something going on there. And I did have a chart that I posted too. Thank you, DD/Jules, Diane/Jules. I do not know which one you are. It's yeah, because I'm also a little bit frightened of being impersonated as well. So the I want to show you one more thing. I want to talk a little bit about maybe like a higher picture time frame here. But somebody asked about EOSE. Let me just knock that one out real quick, and I'm going to go to a little bit of like what I'm thinking overall. Yeah, EOSE, I can say immediately right off the bat, if I remember this chart very well, looking at Ichimoku Cloud, it's probably going to hit the top of the cloud and probably going to end up having some rejection there. It's going to be around like 3.2. I think that's going to be the target level it's going to hit. And that's going to be a resistance level over there. And when that happens, I don't know how far down it's going to go, maybe like back to like 2.5 or something like that. But that's probably going to be resistance. So you still have some juice on this move up here. I think it's probably still going to be a pretty decent, buy here. It's not way outside the upper Bollinger Band here on the weekly. So I still think it has room to go up. On the monthly, it still has room to go up to maybe even like 3.7, somewhere around there, right? 20-month moving average is crawling up. This is a bullish chart. This is a bullish chart. It doesn't mean that things are going to come back and back test like 2.5 or even like potentially lower. But this is a bullish chart. I like it. Higher highs, higher lows. There's nothing to dislike about it. But if you have to get worried about, whether or not it's a good area to enter right now, probably not. The area to enter is, it's not helpful for me to say things like that. But the area to enter is probably closer to like the bull market support band, as well as the Tenkan Kijun area over here after you got rejected from the cloud, right? Finding support, bounce back up. Where's the next area? If you're a trader, maybe 3.2 is going to be a pretty good level to sell, right? I'm not the only like Ichimoku Cloud chartist. Plenty of people looking at the same thing. So where's it going to end up finding support? Well, it depends. Maybe the Tenkan Kijun is going to be up above. Maybe the bullish support band is going to be up above. Who knows what's going to happen? Maybe it's just kind of go sideways here, and then these things just kind of catch up, and they end up backpacking something and break through, right? I don't think it's going to break through the first time. Higher time frame, same thing. Why I think 3.2 is going to be a pretty strong resistance level over here is because you have the Kijun over here too. The red line's up here. You can't just like break through some confluence level where it's both at the weekly cloud as well as the monthly Kijun here. So yeah, a little bit way far extended here. Probably need some time to cool down. How far down is going to go, I don't know. Maybe 2.5 after it hits 3.2. That's my best guess. But overall, if you ask me on the longer time trend, I think is the 20-month is pointing up. I think things are looking pretty decent. So yeah, Dan, you guys are killing it. Yeah, you're the battery guy, right? I don't know, but anyway, looking pretty decent. I don't have anything else bad to say about it. The only thing I would say from a charting perspective that I worry about USC is that it still hasn't formed a higher high yet, right? And there is still a little bit of a lingering issue over here, although you are breaking above this trend line here, right? But is it going to be like Tesla where you had like a fake breakout? Is it going to be like Tesla, if I can drag the chart here, where you had a little bit of a fake breakout, and then it's just end up like not being right. So I don't know. The battery guy. Okay. Do I check PayPal? Margin call, you want PayPal? Do I like PayPal? Yes. Am I still eyeing for a possible retracement down to the mid 60s to enter? Yes. Could I potentially miss the boat? Yes. Would I be okay if I missed the boat on this one? Yes. What I have to say is because it's stuck in a range of this volume shelf. Like I can't. This is a bullish chart. The 20-month moving average has been reclaimed. This is a bullish chart. I cannot emphasize enough that I think PayPal is no longer PayPal. I think PayPal is really PayPal. Like I think it's going to pay, and I think it's going to be a pretty decent trend up moving forward. But nothing goes up on a straight line. You are at resistance. You are at some pretty powerful resistance that are coming up here. Around 75 is going to be some pretty strong resistance because of the volume shelf, because price just simply spent a long time over here, right? So 75 is going to be resistance. You can't just break above something you spend like 6 months as resistance, right? That just doesn't happen. And when you get rejected from resistance, where is it going to be? Where are you going to find support below? Where is it going to be? Or maybe around like 68, 69, 65, 63, somewhere down here. And if you're also looking at the Ichimoku, it also really convincingly break above the rising Tenkan. Volume is not bad. And right now, a rising Tenkan could help push price up higher, right? Where are you going to find resistance at? Where is that red line right there? What price is that red line at? The red line is at 76.64. So that's going to be resistance. Do I think things just going to break through? Like, look at how, I guess if you're saying, oh, it just broke through underneath over here and just plummeted, right? Like it did back test the Kijun over here back around December 2021. The market thinks that the Kijun is important, right? Back tested it twice, failed, plummeted, right? Back tested the cloud twice, fell underneath of it, plummeted, right? Well, the Kijun is right above. I'm looking to enter maybe somewhere back in the 60s. That's what I'm thinking for PayPal. So, man, that's margin. That's an insane volatility that you just suffer through. That's absolutely insane. I hope you didn't average up as price was going up, but I think PayPal is gonna outperform S&P 500 for 2025 probably by a pretty significant margin. Yeah, I like the PayPal chart. Please, guys, let me know if I'm missing any potential chart request here. I just want to go through a couple other things here. Man, I don't know what to say. Margin call. That's whew. Good thing you didn't buy it on margin, right? So that's a plus. 2-year, 10-year. I keep talking about on space. I'm gonna make this a linear chart because there's no reason to do charting on yields on lock scale. But I just want to say, everybody's talking about rate cut. I mean, you already had a rate cut that happened for almost like a whole year by the market. You already had the yields for the 2-year all the way from 5.3 that had plumbed all the way down to 3.9 before the Fed even cut rates. So, and that's going to impact mortgage rates. That's going to impact everything else already, right? And that's already going to impact, this is 10 years, same thing. You really talk about the peak is October 2023, 5%, right? Currently already below 4%. And guess where the trend's going? The trend's going down because it broke down underneath a flattening 20-month moving average, right? So yeah, it's going to go down. How far it's going to go? Maybe 3%, somewhere around there. 2-year yield already broken down. It's just riding along the lower Bollinger Band, just waiting for Bollinger Band to expand before going on down lower. Remember what I said about October 2023? What about the U.S. money supply? When did the U.S. money supply ended up bottoming? The U.S. money supply ended up bottoming in October 2023 from the quantitative tightening, right? So you can see a lot of confluence basically saying that there's increased liquidity. Duh, you already knew that. S&P 500 is already making all-time highs and things like that, right? But yeah, U.S. liquidity, this is for July. It keeps going up. It does have a little bit of tiny deceleration here. Maybe that's why we have a little bit of a market pullback. Now that we have the July data, but basically it's just retracing back to the mean. And so I was saying, like, I think if you do a log chart, which is going to be, because they print money in log scale. If you do a log chart, this is just basically retracing back to the mean. You know, like you put the Bollinger Band, you look at the mean, yeah. It's just basically retracing back to the mean. That's all it really is doing. I think that a lot of the money supply is, you know, already being absorbed into the market. I don't know, you know, but basically it's like linear from this big giant trend up, right? So am I worried about recession? Not really, not yet. Really, S&P 500, QQ, IWM is certainly not really telling me that. You know, IWM has certainly looked like it's got breaking out of like a 2-year big giant accumulation zone. You're hitting some pretty strong resistance here. It might take maybe another couple months to break out because you spend price at the current level for like a whole year. So I think it's probably going to end up going sideways here a little bit. But I do like the higher highs, higher lows. I do like the channeling up, and I do like this big giant wick underneath below. So I think that whenever things go back, if it goes back down to like 200, I think that'd be like a good place for me to continue to load up on TNA, which is triple average IWM. There's nothing bearish I'm seeing about the chart, with the exception that maybe it's a resistance, and that's to be, you know, a little bit more cautious. And you know, you see, if you're not cautious, you're like, oh, it's going to break out this zone over here. You end up like getting like margin, you know, like buying, getting to like short-term calls, things like that. You would have gotten punished, and that's exactly what they do. They use that macro fear, yen carry trade, meet Kevin, you know, so on and so forth, to really try to scare you. So it's a resistance though. Probably maybe I can see it maybe forming a little bit like a ascending triangle for the next couple of months before breaking out, and then I'm okay with that. Like there's nothing wrong with that. I just want to show you guys one more thing before I go, which is something that I think is very important. I had the GameStop chart right here. I do want to show you one more thing here before I go. There is a chart called Others, right? This is basically cryptocurrency market, total market cap excluding the top 10. And I'm going to turn off the Ishimoku because none of this matters. I do want to, I do want to reset chart view here and make them about the same, turn off the volume over here. And I do want to kind of go through a few cycles here. So the cycles maybe like 2016. This is the 2-week chart, so I'm going to change that to 1 month to make them look a little bit more even. I do want to say one thing, because I do think that, and not many people are talking about this, maybe because it's not true and I'm just dumb, and what I'm saying is completely off base. And I cannot get these two charts to kind of line up perfectly, so excuse me if they're a little bit out of sync. But what I'm really saying here is every single cycle, it does the same thing between alts and between like the large cap stocks. And I think it's very, very important to look into what it does. What I mean by this is, if you're looking at like the 2016, 2017 market, and I wish I had a better way to kind of line these things up, but I don't. If you look at 2016, 2017 market and doing this cycle over here, there is something that is pretty, you know, interesting that happens, right? Whenever you have, let me see here. Yeah, so you have a little bit of a rotation between like the S&P 500 and alts, right? You have really like starting from July, it's a pretty bad downtrend, right? Whereas for S&P 500 is hanging out okay. I guess this is actually not what I was going to show. Where was I going to show? See, I lost my charts from my CryptoCandicat account. It's so upsetting. Let me see. Okay, now I'm lining them up. That's what happens when I do a live stream, is I just make a bunch of mistakes, and you know, it's unfortunate. Okay, this is what I was trying to show. S&P 500 sideways here. Yeah, I'm lining up now. S&P 500 sideways over here. Altcoin up, right? S&P 500 up for like 6 months in a row. altcoin plummeted for about 6 months in a row, right? And then you have like COVID happen. Obviously, it's a little bit of like a black swan event, so that, ignore that. But you have basically a little bit of rotation between S&P 500 sideways, altcoin doing really well, S&P 500 going up, altcoins suck, and they end up having like everything rally, right? The cycle before that, I remember seeing a very, very similar pattern where you have a period of time where altcoins just doing extremely well, like around December 2015, all the way to like March of 2016, when the market just like plummeted, right? So there's going to be some rotation that happens, and I think right now we've had, and people forget about this. Like we've had some pretty outperformance of altcoins towards the end of last year and early this year, when the S&P 500 really like done like not much at all. Like you remember when, I mean, like you do have a little bit of uptrend here, but like over here is particularly striking, right? You remember that the scare of the stock market from like August 2023 all the way to like October 2023, everybody thought the stock market was just going to go plummet, and altcoins is having a little bit of uptrend here, right? And you have a little bit of everything rally here for a couple of months here, but then now you have altcoins going down and S&P 500 going up, right? This is kind of almost exactly happened, what happened during the last cycle, before COVID, right? Where altcoin has a little bit of outperformance, and then it's just underperformed, and then everything rallied, right? So I think it might just be a little bit of rotation. Again, I might be completely off base on this, but this is kind of what I'm seeing. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. I am still in miners. I'm still in altcoins. I'm still buying Doge and Ethereum every week, and I'm still buying BTBT every week. I may be looking to start a position on PayPal, especially if it goes down to the 60s. I think that'd be a pretty decent risk reward ratio. I'm still buying Tesla. What else am I doing? I think that's about it. I think I'm going to keep buying SOFI whenever it's less than $8. I'm going to try to buy as much as I can. I think I still have maybe a few weeks to get into that. I'm no longer I'm no longer increasing my exposure to like the semiconductors. I think that's one thing that I'm kind of a little bit shying away from now, because I do think that the semiconductor space is a little bit overextended, even though fundamentals might still sound excellent. I still think that it's a little bit overextended. I still think that NVIDIA probably still have another maybe 2 to 3, maybe even 4x to go, but I think that might be kind of the end of the cycle. And then you might end up having some, pretty bad, correction that might come after that. I don't think it's happening yet. I think we're here is very, very similar to where we are here, and very similar to where we are here. So there's still, some uptrend that's happening. Did a chart on it. Again, I don't have that chart with me anymore because it was on my old account. But can I ask your opinion of XRP? I know Matt loves it. If you have a moment, you want me to lose viewer count by talking about XRP? Let me talk about XRP. But that's like an ongoing joke. Like every single time Matt talks about XRP, we're like, we don't want people to leave. Stop talking about XRP. It's a bullish chart. It's a bullish chart. I actually, so I don't know about the fundamentals of XRP, right? I don't know the fundamentals of XRP. I have to say this for sure. I know that they're involved in the banking systems, and they're involved in payment, and I know that there's a potential great application if this ends up getting adopted. I know that XRP could potentially be one of those older coins that actually is going to have an application. It's possible, right? I gotta admit, I don't know that, but if you ask me, I think it's gonna at least. I'm gonna tell you, and I'm not necessarily as bullish, with Matt saying it's gonna go to $10 for sure. Like I don't know, right? I'm gonna say at the very least, I can see it hitting this trend line up here, and how it reacts to that trend line depends on how it reacts to the trend line, right? Because it's looking like it's setting up like it wants to push price up, and the Bollinger Band here on the monthly is squeezing. It does look like it wants to push price higher. Now, that's going to be the first resistance that I see. And depending where it hits, it's going to be maybe around $1, maybe a little bit higher. Beyond that, I can't tell you because I'm not a GAN master like Matt. But it's a bullish chart on a higher time frame. And if you ask me whether or not something like this could potentially end up breaking up to like $10 or higher, my answer is yes. You know, you have consolidation over here for a very, very long time. I think it's possible, and I think that it does look like they want to push price up higher. I just don't know how much higher. Let me think of another thing to say about this. Do I have anything else to say about this? No, that's it. I'm gonna leave it be. Oh yeah, I want to show you a comparison to the XRP chart to like Tesla. Kind of like Tesla, and Matt did the same thing. Tesla did nothing for like 7 years, and it breaks out, and it just went crazy, right? So I can totally see something like that happening with XRP if the fundamental supports it, right? If there's adoption, if that happens, I can totally see, you know, potentially XRP doing something similar to that. Sorry, this is not a very good chart for XRP, but yeah, I can totally see like XRP doing something similar, right? But I just don't know enough fundamentals for me to say whether or not it's just going to hit the trend line to like $1 or whether or not it's going to go a lot higher. I don't know. So, guys, did I miss any other chart requests? I think that's it for tonight. I think I answered V's question, Matt Johanson's question. I think I answered pretty much all of y'all's chart request here. The usual suspects. Thank you so much for joining. And looking more to buy miners on Tuesday. Anyone that stands out as support versus resistance. I don't know anymore, DK. I don't know anymore. You can watch. I did the miners earlier. You can watch. All I gotta say is that WULF and IREN and BTBT look the most bullish to me. I think CIFR still looks pretty decent. I think Mara and Bitfarms are not looking bad. You know, CleanSpark really is the one that's kind of lag behind, which is why I think that somebody knew something about the dilution news, and it might already have been kind of priced in a little bit, but I don't know. Like, it depends on your style. If you want to try to buy things that are, you know, stretching down the wrong way, like CleanSpark is like way underneath the CleanSpark is like way underneath the weekly Bollinger Band, right? So if you're like trying to catch a falling knife, like that might not be a bad area to catch it at, but it's just not as, you know, bullish as some of the other ones. And if they're bullish, that might mean that, you know, a move has kind of gone up, right? So all these things are kind of tough for me to say for sure. All I know right now is I was hoping that CleanSpark would hold this Fibonacci level around 11.5. It didn't. If it was holding it, I think that would have been like a pretty decent area to accumulate, but it didn't, right? So I don't know, which is the reason why I'm like more focusing on BTBT. And for CleanSpark, I'm holding. I'm just watching right now. I'm a little bit at a loss, you know, because I was buying down here around 7s or 8s, and then when it got up here, I was buying more close to like the bottom of the range here. So my cost average right now is like around 11. So right now I do have like a unrealized loss. So I'm probably just gonna watch it. I don't really feel like I want to like load up or anything like that because I feel like I'm happy with my position, and things a little bit, you know, stretch a little bit too far down to the downside. So I don't really feel like selling it either. So I'm just gonna hold it, right? If I have to buy something, I prefer buying like a chart like BTBT, you know, where you have like a up curling 20-week moving average, and maybe just kind of come back down, back test some of these horizontal levels over here. So that's kind of what I'm looking at. But anyway, yeah, DK, check out my video. It's gonna be all recorded. Anyway, guys, Jules or not Jules, is it Diane? I don't know, but thank you so much for joining. You guys have a great rest of the weekend. Take care. Bye.